Okay, I'll show you guys now how to do some headband stuff. So this pretty much applies to any character that has like a loincloth, like a gi, anything with like a floppiness to it. We'll do it for Raph, just because I think he moves probably the most. I mean, Donnie does too, but it kind of applies to both of them, so. So what I recommend you guys doing when you guys are polishing your cloth, so you want to do it after all the body stuff is looking great. Like basically if you're not touching the body anymore, or like the COG, then you can start doing the cloth and whatnot, because pretty much anything you do to the body after the fact is going to change your cloth animation. So there's no point in doing it until you're like fully decided like this is how it's going to look, and now I'm just adding stuff, okay? So what I recommend you do as well, because a lot of the cloth controllers are pretty tiny and a bit awkward. Yep. Slow down, that's all right.
Also apply to hair?
Yes, also to hair. Yeah, this workflow applies to anything that's secondary, hair, cloth, yeah, anything like that. Even effects as well, you can do that same kind of thing. So what I recommend you guys do, I think for this one, yes, controllers like this. Okay, I see. Yeah, so this one's pretty simple. So it's like a 3 controller joint chain. So what I recommend you guys doing is figuring out like what moves the bulk of the cloth, because you're going to treat it like an arm, right? It's kind of a similar workflow. But before you start, good practice is to select all your controllers. Select all your controllers for the thing you're going to pose out, and just create a layer for it in the display layer here. Just click on this button here on the side, and then name it, you know, whatever it is. So Raph headband. And the reason why you want to do this, to separate it from the geo, you can turn it off so it doesn't affect, oops. Oh, it actually gets rid of everything, never mind. But the reason why you want to have this is because you can right click on it and hit select objects, wherever it is. Where is it? Select objects. Ah, why is it doing that? Select objects. Yeah, make sure you don't select everything. So you select everything. And you basically can just remove this stuff here, remove selected objects. And then now if you click select objects, it kind of works. Remove selected objects. This one here. There we go. Now when you hit select objects, you only get the headband and nothing else. Just make sure you don't have anything else selected. And then this is what you can use to keyframe, basically. So since you haven't animated any of it, you can basically just delete all the keyframes you set on it, because you obviously don't need it, you haven't touched it yet. And just like with the arms, you can start doing general poses for it. So again, I missed a controller here, so I'm going to add it to selected objects, select objects, and then delete. So since we're on Raph, we're going to just go to this camera view here. So even if frame 1, he's not moving yet, but he's going to start moving, you still want to sell the idea that the character has already been moving before the shot started, right? You don't want to have it just be completely dead and start the motion happening at the beginning of the shot, because then it looks like it's not real, like it's kind of just a fake CG scene, right? And so based on what the movement is going to be, so you kind of want to follow basically what the head and what the spine are doing first, because that's how it's going to drag and flow through the action, right? So if it's going to be going up like this, we're probably going to have this curve like going down like this, and then when it comes down, it's going to drag further, and we're probably going to have a reverse, like a U curve, kind of going like this. So since we're going to do that, we're going to pose it out, and you treat it just like a blocking pass, because then once you do the main poses, it's going to be really easy to deal with. So I'm just going to select both controllers, even though there is 2 separate ones, just to get a rough idea of what I want it to be. And again, make sure you delete. And try to just pose it in one axis if you select everything. And then you can move the main controller so you can like visually see it. So we're going to try to get it a bit visible here. So we're going to pose it like this, add a bit more twist. And again, similar to your arms and whatnot, you want to make sure that you kind of see both of the objects properly. So that's where you can start breaking apart the pose and kind of varying it up a little bit just because you want to see the actual headband itself, right? Because if I have it this way, I can't really tell and it's like looks too thin here. So I'm purposely cheating it so you see more of the cloth, okay? And this creates a bit more of a nice pose. And we're going to just set a key on everything there. And then we're basically looking for our next key pose where the shape has to change. So we're going to keep going here. So I would say when the motion starts to carry, we're going to add a pose probably in a frame or two after. So, and then it starts to change here. So when the pose starts going in a certain direction and then changes direction, that's when a new key pose probably should be there. So I would say probably around 4 to 5 for Raf here. So let's go with frame 5 and see how it is. And pretty much we want the opposite effect here. So if you think about, if you have something, if you put something on the back of your head like your arm, and you let your arm be as floppy as possible, if you move your head, right, you can kind of feel how it's moving, right? That's kind of the feeling you want. Obviously you might have to adjust the intensity, but that's generally how you want to go about doing your main poses. So again, you start broad, just to get the idea. And what you can do is also reset everything just so you get clean rotations again. And again, it's going to be rotating downward here. And I want it to be visible if possible. So I'll have it be like here, maybe even here. And so I'm kind of losing the shape here, so I'm going to try to cheat it a little bit and have some rotation. And again, you work your way down the chain, just like anything else. And this part's pretty tricky because you can't really see it too much. So you try to get as much as visible as possible just to sell the intent. And again, even if you don't see it fully, you want to make sure you put that pose in because it's going to affect how it translates to the next key pose where you do see it, okay? And that's why I'm selecting all the controllers again, just following a pose-to-pose method here. So you see now we have the movement here. Obviously there's going to be an in-between here because obviously the tail end of the headband is not moving properly. It's kind of just like floating into the end shape here. So we'll do that in between after, but we want to get the proper motion going first. So here to here, and then it can just hang kind of in this spot here. We'll get it visible with a hold, so probably about here, I would say. So we'll set a key here, obviously, because we want to get rid of these keys as well. Pretty much we'll pose the top here, just so you can show more drag, and also can see the headband. And our next pose, where do you guys think our next pose would be for the headband? Yeah. So pretty much we'll have it about 12-ish, something like that. And again, I don't know the timing, I'm just guessing where it would be, and I'm just trying it. And again, posing it downward. And there's two things with doing cloth. There's a balance of making it look cool and making it look physically proper, right? So you want to strike a balance between the two. And again, we're probably going to have an in-between here of it dragging further. So this one will probably have to kick up because it's transitioning really fast. So we'll probably have to do like a motion where it's like kicking up like this and then coming back. So again, I'll make sure I select everything. Set a key. And we'll actually move this back a little bit, maybe frame 11. And then here it'll be up for the kick. So let's save again. Let's call this something else. go about 5 frames ahead. And we'll basically contrast this pose. So we'll lift it up. And again, what you can do is always just reset the rotations, just so it's clean. And again, you can see it's not really showing too much. It's kind of like losing its shape here. So again, we can rotate the other way. And then rotate the tail end a little bit. Because basically you want to figure out like the main shape that it has to take for the motion to feel right, and then you can pose it out so like it looks cooler, so to speak. So you can like separate them a little bit, because they're kind of stuck together right now. So something like that. And now you can see both of them clearly. If he had just one long cloth, for example, like Ryu, for example, well, he has 2 as well, but if he had just one, you could just do that one pass instead. Yeah, so this timing is a bit too... Yeah, so maybe I don't even need this pose, actually. So make sure you set a key. And we'll actually blow this away for now. Maybe it's just an in-between we need there. And then this will basically be a moving hold here. So this one here, copy that over. Accidentally had some extra keys, so we're just going to delete that. And I think about here, maybe frame 17. And probably, we'll just leave that as an in-between, I think, for later. So we'll just have the headband come down. So again, we'll reset. And again, you guys notice I'm not really rotating more than one axis when I select everything, just because you don't want to cause gimbal lock or some weird unintentional rotation. If you're doing rotation in all axes, just select one controller at a time, just so you don't break it, okay? Yeah, so we'll say we'll do it up to here, I think. Again, select everything. Is this all making sense so far, you guys? Yes? No?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, if you guys don't tell me it makes sense, I'm gonna think you don't know anything. Okay, so I think I'm hitting the beats that I want to hit. And so now we gotta make it look proper. So this compression is looking off. So the nice thing about this, since we have like semi-moving hold here, 3 frames might be not enough here, but I'm gonna just try it, see how it works here. So we're gonna add some delay here and also further have it go like this. And it's kind of like what you guys do with the wrist when you're doing a polish, very similar. And again, you want to have some drag. And then here, some drag as well. And again, that might be too much of a fast settle. So I'm going to delay it 2 frames. And again, it's kind of stiff when it gets to here. So obviously we need to sell it going further. So again, we'll select the back 2. You can see the headband is moving kind of to the movement now. It's kind of favoring really high up here. and it's kind of getting stuck. You guys see the headband is kind of staying in place. It's not really going past this part here. So easy enough. Just rotate it up. And then again, I'm going to have some drag. Have some drag. And even this shape here, I'm going to enhance this a little more. Just because again, as you're posing out the motion, you want to like take a quick pass to make sure you can see it, right? So you're not losing it too much. And even if it's moving at the same time, that's totally okay because we can offset it, and then we'll get some nice overlap. So again, we'll add some settle. So again, we'll copy this over, let's say frame 23. I'm just guessing here. But again, we can sell the drag because it's kind of moving at the same time like we saw. So again, just some general rotation here. And again, you want to make sure it goes down. It's a little floaty. So again, I'll try speeding this up by a frame, speeding this up by a frame. And then basically we're going to add some more delay. So basically just at the tips here, so not the base of it or the middle. Again, just a little bit here. And again here, just at the tip, you can add a nice little like S shape here. And we can tilt it to camera more, but we're just trying to get the general feel of it so it looks more alive. And actually we'll delay the tips here. Not too much. You guys see the difference now? Now if you want to be crazy, you can add some wind effect if you want, have it be like during the kick if you want it to be really intense, but I'm not going to do that, but it's up to you. And so once you have it generally feeling pretty good, like it's a realistic way that it will behave, you can basically start doing like a posing pass to make sure every pose of it looks readable here. So here looks kind of decent. You can kind of enhance it by cheating it to camera a little bit. Usually each thing has like a main controller that rotates both, or you just select like the double top controller here. Here you kind of lose it, so I kind of want to rotate to cheat a little bit. And it's just a minor adjustment just so you see it, right? And even here you kind of lose it here. So I'm going to cheat it the other way. So you see now you get this like natural like flow back and forth. Get a nice twist. And then here you kind of see it, but again, I'm going to cheat this. So you can see it as much as possible. And again, I'll probably push this further. Yeah, so let's say it goes up to 21. Obviously I can do the whole thing, but and you know what? I think I'm going to have another in between here. Yeah, I think there's too much hang time at the end, so I'm going to select everything, Set a key, set a key, set a key. Yeah, it's a bit better. Yeah, it's really easy to make something really floaty, especially with cloth, because you're thinking it's like floating on air and whatnot. But as long as you have good, strong shape changes in your cloth stuff, it's usually going to be pretty quick. Basically, as long as the character is moving in your scene, you don't want to really ever have the cloth just stop, because you always want to have it like settle or go past. Kind of like when you do hair. If you do like a hair flop, it's always going to be like a chain, right? If you swing a chain around, it's going to like still like drag and slowly come to a stop. And then basically the character needs to be completely still in order for it to actually stop completely. Otherwise, it's going to still like have a bit of sway back and forth, right? Yeah, so just a small pass here. And then once you're happy with all the motion, you can do a little bit of offset. So if there's two of them, what you can do is select one of them that you want to offset, and you can just basically select all your keys, probably from here, and just move it over one frame. Now if that doesn't look right, then you can not do that. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, depending on how many chains you have. But what you can start doing is on the tail end, you can actually offset that by one frame. So like the back two, just one frame here. And then since we're making the blue one more of the star, so to speak, we'll just do just the tail end last. This kind of works. Yeah, I would say this is the only thing that I would actually offset physically in the timeline. Everything else in the body you can just adjust with the pose, and then that way you can get it looking smooth and squishy. But because cloth is so finicky and hair, stuff like that, that's the stuff you generally want to offset. Like at some studios and even online, there's like some scripts that do like auto offsetting. So if you have like a hair controller or something with like 7 layers of hair, if you run a script and then select all those controllers with whatever animation you have, it'll automatically like offset the keys one frame at a time instead of having you like do it manually. But again, this is something you do if like you really want to make it look more offset, because you have two different things. Does that make sense, you guys? Yeah, Dean? It really depends on the project, honestly. A lot of games nowadays, they do simulation, but usually at the bare minimum, you're doing a keyframe pass on top of like the base poses, that like the extreme shapes that they go into, and then a simulation will go on top of that and just like add like the bit of the ripple in between the motion and kind of like keep it alive. Like on the Falcon shot I did, that I showed you guys. Let me find it for you. Yeah, like on this shot here. So this shot, I did the wings, like basically a rough pass of the wings. Basically like the extreme poses of it, like crashing like here, this like curling shape, and then the sliding underneath and like these bends here. And then after I did the poses and it looked decent enough, like it was communicating what was happening to the wings, they sent it off to VFX, and then they added simulation, made sure it wasn't crashing, and like add some like robotic shiftiness to like the gears and whatnot. So that's one form of it. Some cheaper studios, like if they don't have a lot of money for like a simulation pipeline, or if the game is being made on something that is, like let's say if it's like made for the Switch or something that really can't support like a lot of real-time physics, usually everything would be keyframe. So it just depends on what you're doing, and again, like the project base, basically. Yeah. Yeah, you might get a bit of both. Sometimes, you know, you might have to do it all yourself. So it just really depends, unfortunately. But it's fun. It's a good skill. Because a lot of the stuff with is kind of like a 2D foundational skill to do this kind of stuff. Because if you start adding like VFX to your own shots or like smears, it's kind of a similar fashion, and all that stuff is transferable. So if you do like let's say you're doing like I don't know, like you're doing a punch, and then you want like VFX behind the punch, it's kind of the same idea as cloth because you're showing drag in the punch and the energy overlapping and falling through, that kind of thing. This is very similar. Cool. Yeah, any other questions before I start helping you guys? No? All right. All right, so continue on, and I'll come over to your desk and help the rest of the people on the list. If you want your name up in there, you can go add it yourself if you have more questions.